as well. We're recording there. And welcome to the Scuttlebutt Podcast. We've been gone for a while. I'm Rich.
I'm Sandi. And thanks for coming back. We've been gone long enough that people are asking, are we not doing podcasts anymore? So we thought on this fine fall day that we might just take an opportunity to connect with you all.
Yeah, it's been so long here. Let's move this away. I'm hearing you pop a little bit.
Oh, okay. It's been so long, I've forgotten how to put my own mic on.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what today is?
Sunday?
It's the International Day of Coffee.
Oh, well.
So to that,
cheers.
some Old Smokes coffee.
And thanks to Tim at Old Smokes Coffee. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, it's one of those things that not a lot of people like coffee.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, there's some. I know. You don't know them. You're pretty sheltered.
People don't like coffee.
Do you know what? Just
What do you do? Get an appropriate amount of sleep or something?
Yeah.
Nerds.
Just about everybody loves the smell of coffee, though.
Is that a fact?
Yeah.
Well,
It's kind of like being an earthworm. Every fish in the world recognizes the smell of an earthworm in the water as food. I don't know what's got to do with coffee, but
earthworm, fish. Maybe it's a sign of things to come.
Well, it has been one crazy summer for us. We've actually had a lot of podcasts planned, but it just everybody had a messed up season, it seems, and
we us included.
We led the pack.
Yeah.
It was finally on our fourth trip out to the cabin that we finally got one there, and two. We actually got to work on the roof and the stove.
Yeah, and it was about 2 or 3 weeks too late because our South African help was gone by then. We hauled everything out on the long weekend in August.
I think he's got some pull with the climate gods or
I think
something.
he must, yeah. Anyway, it rained, and we left a day early on the long weekend because we weren't certain we were going to get out. And that Sunday, it had dry is a relative term, I guess.
Drier than it's been.
It wasn't raining. How's that?
Moss was growing slower than it has all year.
Anyway, we it took some doing to get out too. But we didn't have a chance to open up the roof and do all the things that needed to be done out there. So finally, on the long weekend in September, Labor Day long weekend here,
and I was busy laboring.
Yes, and I was watching.
It's really I don't know. I mean, if you've seen any of the footage out at our cabin, on the one side it's nice and clear the way it should be. The other side, when they built it right up next to 3 big trees, which is stupid.
I think the trees were quite a bit smaller when they built the cabin because I think the cabin's just about 40 years old.
Could be, whatever. Still their fault.
Little details.
Anyway, so now when I go up there and I got to pull a tin off, and it's an 8 and 12, so you can't stand on it. I mean, you can stand on the wood.
Describe for people who aren't in construction what an 8 and 12 is.
Well, for every 12 inches of run, you have 8 inches of rise, so it's really steep.
In other words, steep.
Yeah, and when you've got a tin roof like what we've got, you just can't stand on it. You just slide down and head out.
So we hauled out scaffolding and we hauled out all the tin to redo the roof, and we had hauled in previously the wood stove because that was part of the plan as well. There's always there never seems to be a year without some sort of renovation of some sort, either an addition, a woodshed addition, or...
Well, those are all hours that nobody ever looks at.
Yeah.
You know, like, I mean, it's all part of being able to live there. Had a friend stop in yesterday, and he was picking up some stuff I was holding for him in my out in the garage. And we wandered around, and he noticed, the coal we've got in storage, and he noticed that we have all the kindling. You know, we have half a cord of kindling that's all split and ready for you, because coal is not easy to start a fire.
And no doubt he noticed the 14 cords of wood that are laying out in the yard.
Exactly, and he said that's why you're successful. He said this stuff's all ready to go. You're not hunting, wondering how you're going to start a fire every time you show up out of the cabin. And that's true. We're not.
Yeah.
Anyway, I get out there, and now first thing I got to do is I got to trim these trees. And so this is another one of those moments of why women live longer than men. Mm-hmm. I'm up on an 8 and 12 with a ladder leaned up against a tree. So the ladder is sitting on the roof and leaned against the tree, and I'm up there with the chainsaw.
The only thing missing, ladies, was the wheelbarrow.
Yeah. Sandy always says...
And that's because it had a flat tire. It isn't because it wasn't needed.
Sandy always says it's always got to involve a ladder and a wheelbarrow.
Yeah. So and that's why women live longer than men, as you said before.
So it was a pretty long pull out was because I had to not only tear off the old tin and get started. I think I pulled three widths of tin on, and then I had to put the new chimney through because we're getting a new stove. That means we've got to renovate and feng shui, and has to be moved.
Oh yeah, it was all my doing.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah. So anyways, you know how it is, guys. You know it's the worst. The worst moment ever is when they say, "You know what? I think that should just." Yeah. Uh-huh. That should just go there. Anyway, so...
hey, listen, we could hold a dance now in the cabin because that old
We're having company out there now?
Well, you never know who might show up, right? Anyway, we gained a lot of square footage, and we have a much more energy efficient... We might even have 2-3 years of wood in the wood shed by now.
Oh, come on. I'll just have to open more windows is all.
Not the way I burn.
Yeah. So I get that done. I get the new chimney up, and then it came time, before I could shut it down after day one, because you got to be semi-roof tight, so I couldn't have that old chimney there. Tearing it out was like, the guy was psychotic. Like, I could have never moved that chimney I destroyed it. I absolutely destroyed it getting out. There was stuff that was nailed in place, and all the time I thought this was an insulated chimney they put in. It wasn't. It was a scary chimney that was in there.
We would not have slept as well if we had known what that chimney was about. Anyway, suffice to say we got it down, and we joke a lot about him up on the roof and I'm standing there directing traffic or whatever, but that's not really the case. I mean, there was a lot of stuff to do even down on the ground, and so that... Oh, Mister. Mister, you had better watch yourself.
So I got that, and I got the one piece in, and I had a big overlap, and so no problem for the night. That was day one. There was only supposed to be a 3% chance of rain on that day, so that's like zero in this summer's weather and that. The next day, we march her to the end, get her done. And meanwhile, we got to tear it. We can't just roll the scaffolding underneath the soffit. I've got to tear it apart and rebuild it each time with trees up in the middle of it and all this kind of stuff. And it's like,
Check out our Facebook page because I think we have some of our creative scaffolding pictures on Facebook.
Well, and the worst part was you just get in a habit that scaffolding's underneath you. So lots of times you step back off the roof without even looking. Well, there was a couple times when it's sitting there on an angle and everything, and it's like I thought just in time before I took the big step.
And he never did tell you what it is that I did.
Well, let me finish what I did.
Oh, okay.
So I get the last of the tin done, and we get it kind of wrapped up and everything. I had about 4:30 on the second day. We were done.
It was 3:00 on the second day that we were done the roof.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I had to go inside and move the stove.
Because we'd put the penetration through for the new chimney.
Right.
Because it was further to the beginning, and then you had to...
I do so much work, I forget what I do.
Okay. So anyway, then you had to connect. The stove was sitting where we needed it to sit, and then you just had to connect the stove to the piece of chimney that was down now through the roof and through the ceiling.
So what time was it we were wrapped and
I think
done?
we were about 5:30.
Okay.
Yeah. We were totally...
That night...
it wasn't half an hour later it started raining.
On day two, it was only a 6% chance of rain. That night we got an inch.
Yeah, and it started raining about 6:00. So we were only... the roof was tight from 3:00 on, but we were done what we needed to do by 5:30.
Yeah.
And we're sitting in the cabin, and I'm making supper, and I'm like, what is that noise? Ooh, it is raining.
And you know what is so funny? You get used to the sounds of your house, right?
Oh, yeah.
So we're out at the cabin there, and now we got brand new tin on the one side. The other tin's 2 years old.
Yeah.
But the brand new tin on the one side, it's got a much different sound than the other tin did.
Well, not only that, but you'd removed a lot of the branches that caught a lot of the rain before it hit the roof. So now, and then there was the space where the old chimney had been because you hadn't closed that inside yet.
Yeah, there was no insulation in there whatsoever.
See, it's a good thing you have me around because I can tell you all the things you did.
I know. Well, it's too much for just one man.
It's true. You're lucky.
But what did you get to do?
Oh, what did I get to do? I got to hand up all of the tin. And then I got
No, not that unimportant stuff. What'd you do at the end of the day?
Oh, I got to burn lots and lots of branches and just clean up around the yard.
You got to start the first fire.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yes, in the cabin, I got to start the first fire. Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it's going to take a little bit of work to understand how it works. You know, the new stove and all that, but I think it's going to be pretty good.
Yeah, there'll be some Madagascar hot kind of days.
Hey, there already was. I already had to have a window open.
Well, you see, that's why we installed new windows. How many years ago was that?
I don't know.
Yeah. It's in preparation for this, you see.
I really like it. It's fall now, and we've been, we just had our first diamond cutter frost last night.
Yeah, -6.
-6 Celsius, so that's what... We're down to about 20 degrees Fahrenheit.
Something like that.
Yeah, somewhere in there. But so I've had to clean out the garden and everything. Everything's inside. But I really like, Sandi made beet pickles yesterday?
Yep.
Yeah, yesterday. They smell really good, but beet pickles, you know, they have that wonderful light, spicy smell. And that it's kind of like a baby. You know, the smell of a new baby. It's false advertising. You know?
I didn't make them for you.
That's good.
I made them for me.
That's
good.
Good.
So I did pickles yesterday, and then what else did I do yesterday? That was a big day, just doing all the pickles. And then today I made pumpkin muffins, and then a big pot of borscht.
There was 5 here until you got here.
Oh, I don't think so.
Pumpkin muffins. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. And today's borscht,
Yeah.
I love borscht too.
He does like beets, just not in the form of pickles.
I don't like them just boiled laying there looking at me.
He does like
either.
beets, just not in the form of pickles and other boiled type vegetables.
So anyway, we're just about October 1st is the start of coyote, wolf, fox, beaver, and muskrat.
Right on.
And the only one we're going to do anything about is muskrat, but that's going to be the middle of October. Hopefully the middle of October.
Yeah, hopefully we don't have a lot of big, heavy frosts again, because that it makes life a lot more difficult. And some of the places, well, we shouldn't have any trouble with water depth this year.
Good God, no.
We were trying to figure out, we never did keep a log of how much rain we got here, but I think it's over 20 inches since the end of May.
Pretty easy.
Yeah.
I know, and I think the least amount of rain was the month of June.
Yeah.
And
we were gone.
We were gone, but we come back after the month of June, and our rain gauge had 4 inches of rain in it.
Yeah.
And then there were weeks when we got 3.75 inches of rain. Yeah. 20 inches would be pretty easy.
And then just Thursday, this last week, we got an inch.
Yeah. They were forecasting a 1/4 inch, and we got an inch. I don't know whether we got the special dump right where we were or what it was.
Well, you know the weatherman. It's the only guy that can keep his job and be wrong 60% of his time.
But you know what? It's a lot better here than it is down south. Southern Alberta right now is some places down there have got
80 centimeters,
which is over. It's pushing in on 3 feet of snow.
Yeah. Down in Pincher Creek, where we used to live, and we still have some good friends who live down there. A friend of mine posted she was going to shovel the deck, but she ended up just being able to shovel a path for the dog to get out of the house. It's brutal. And up here, I don't know about down south, but up here, there is still a lot of crop in the field because it's been too wet for the big machinery to be out there. So today when I went to town, I didn't see a lot of combines moving.
No, with that big frost last night, we would be till 2-3 in the afternoon with sunshine and wind and that. And
we have some sunshine. We don't have a lot of wind.
No. So it's pretty tough that way. But what we got to do to get ready for muskrat season, I got to boil and dip the traps again.
Well, you built yesterday a couple long rows of shelving out in the cold storage area so that we can now find all of our muskrat floats.
Oh my gosh. I tell you, your life is a little bit messed up when you go on a vacation for a month and it puts you a year behind.
Except that it really wasn't as much. It was a vacation. Let's be honest. You go to South Africa, you don't call it work. But because people might throw turnips at you or something. I don't know. Anyway, I mean, it was work, though, because we were filming and whatnot. But it was also vacation in that we went with friends.
Yeah.
And we met up with friends over there who are South African and just the most fabulous people ever.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty cool.
We didn't get done all the things that we wanted to do here, though, because there is some stuff in our actual house where we live most of the time that we had thought we would get done this year, and it just didn't happen because of so many reasons.
Well, the biggest thing is that Sandi is now tired of the color of the walls. So we've lived out here for 12 years, so I think it's time for a refresh. And I tried it out last summer. I painted in one of the bedrooms, and I like it. So do you. So now we're thinking that we're going to do the rest of the house that way. But there's just some freshening up that needs to be done in the house, and the carpets need to be cleaned, and blah blah blah, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I need to boil and dip my traps. I need to build a few more floats, and because I managed to pick up some more traps. You heard about that, didn't you? Did you hear about the special buy I got on traps?
Oh, there's always a special buy on something.
So I need some more floats. I've got lots of poles and hag clips for the foot or the coil springs. It's the long springs that I use on the floats that I need more floats for. So I'm going to be building. I think I'll do a video on how I make them. We get so many questions about making a float, and it's a simple way to go. And the nice thing about floats is when you've got high density in that.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got 2 at every station. Yeah. You've got two
traps at every location.
The biggest danger always is to maximize how much you get out of a sheet of plywood or whatever, right? Because I make the base out of plywood and I put foam underneath it. And anyway, I found that I make them a foot wide and 2 feet long, which is pretty substantial. But if you make them any smaller, then there's always a chance that when it gets into one trap, it can get into the second trap as well.
Yeah.
So if you have it big enough, they can fall off the side. And also, when you have it that size, it still floats sort of level. It doesn't tilt right up.
Correct. Yeah.
When you've got one hanging down on the chain drowned.
Yeah.
So
there is still a chance that you'd catch a second one even if you cut it first.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, we've got a piece of footage that'll be on one of the shows this year, where we got 2 muskrats in the same foothold. I've never done that. I've never done that before.
About that. Yeah.
Yeah. That was.
So we have a couple of places to trap muskrats. One of them is fairly close to us. Another is a friend of ours who lives on a lake, and we've got permission to trap their bit of frontage. And then we have a Ducks Unlimited.
We have a couple of different places for that.
Yeah.
Should be some water in the one this year.
I'm hoping so, because that one has so much goose poop or whatever you call it. You get into the canoe, and man, it's all you can do to move all, like, because when we head out, we've got all those, traps, and even if we're using the hags brackets and not the floaters, there is a lot of stuff in the bottom of the canoe, and it's weight. And then you and I, and
well, the worst part is you're sitting about that much water, but there's literally 3 feet of goo underneath. You can't walk through it, because you just keep sinking all the time, right? So I mean, you have to use a canoe, but you just still it's tough. We get a good load on it, and you can feel the bottom dragging in the goo.
Yeah, it's challenging.
We got a lot of carrots though for bait this year.
Oh yeah,
out of the garden, because we had such a wet year. We just did not get out and thin them. We didn't really weed a lot either. We didn't get out to thin them.
There was that conversation about what was in this row.
No kidding. Oh, well, I actually thought at one point about putting snowshoes on to get out there to weed, and I thought, this is stupid. As much as I like weeding, I'm not doing that. But we got a whole bunch of carrots, like the size and length of my finger.
And they're just perfect for bait.
Are they ever good eating, though?
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, I'll be hard on them this year in the canoe. I know it. But anyway, we'll get that up and going, and we don't need any fall beaver this year because I got lots of beaver left over.
Yeah,
I got lots of bait to get us going.
And we must have done a really good job of promoting our beaver blanket, because even the lady where I get the mail is wanting to, she just doesn't want to wait until the show that has the beaver blanket on it. Couldn't she see a picture of it now? And I went, geez, I don't even have one. So I'll have to take a picture of the beaver blanket next time I stop for the mail. I can show her.
Well, that's it'll be episode 13, is it? And it will be for folks in the U.S. that are watching us on Pursuit Channel in the U.S. It will be the last week of September, and that will be when.
Is this like? It's either already aired or it's going to be.
Because the next quarter starts on the weekend.
Next weekend.
So it'll be airing this coming week here. When it's going to air. And in Canada, it will be the fourth week of October is when it'll air.
Okay.
Which is, by the way, another thing we got to announce. We're changing times in Pursuit in the United States. We're going to be actually going to 2 airings a week there.
Excellent.
We've been doing very well. We've been doing very well on the single airing that we've got. The only problem we got, it's at 6:30 on a Saturday afternoon, and this is something that was just totally foreign to me because when our numbers have been doing this, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden goes on the last airing, and I says, "What on earth is going on?" And so I get a hold of them, and they says, "Ooh, college football started." I was, what?
We don't really have college football here.
We don't have college football.
Not the way that Americans have college football.
So that's one of those things that I was totally blind to. Knew nothing about it, and it was like, are you kidding me?
It's a learning experience. Every time you step out into a different market or do something a little different, there's always a learning that comes with it. So.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I'm working right now with them, arranging for next year's airings, and what we're going to have for a schedule. We're going to go to 3 a week next year. But this year, for the last couple weeks here, we're going to 2-3 weeks here. We're going to change from our Saturday airing to a Monday in the morning, which is not good. But then we're going to pick up a 11:30 Eastern Standard Time on Monday or Tuesday night as well. Watch the website. Once we get it all finalized, I get the ink, it's on the contract, we'll have it up and let you know.
And we'll post on Facebook too.
Yeah. So we're going to move up to 2 airings, which is going to be nice. 2 airings a week. And
so watch Trapping Inc. TV and Trapping Inc. Facebook pages.
Yeah. And
we'll make some announcements there once. Absolutely. As you say, the ink is dry.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the big thing is to, it costs a lot of money to be on the air.
Yep.
And especially in the United States, where our dollar is so much weaker than the U.S. dollar.
Yeah.
It costs us what, $1.30, $1.35?
$1.30 for sure.
$1.30, yeah. So if I'm paying $1,000 a week, that's $1,300 a week. So I need to be sure of having my sponsorship in place before we can commit, because otherwise it's just economic suicide.
Yep, exactly.
I mean, it's an awesome expansion and it's going very well.
Yeah.
Just got to make sure.
Well, a lot more people are being introduced to what we're doing up here, and the further south you go in the States, the more curious people seem to be, because it's just so different, especially in the winter when you have feet of snow and very cold temperatures.
I was talking with a fella in Alabama, I think it was, on Friday, and it was 99 degrees, and he read off the forecast for the rest of the week: 99, 98, 97, 90, 96, and I was like, I said, it's snowing outside my window right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, we've done a lot around here too this fall. Like you mentioned, harvesting the garden and whatnot, but our garden is kind of in the area where we cleared this space that we've got all of our buildings in, because we bought the quarter, it was all trees. Mm-hmm. A quarter section is 160 acres here in Alberta. And so when we bought it 13 years ago, we had a lot to do. And where that garden space is, I'm looking at it right now out the basement window, that's where our burn pile was. So there's probably a lot of, not so great soil in there and so on. So we hauled some manure. And then we have a couple of places where we've got peat moss on the property. So,
well, the one place there's a pile that's there, and it's been there for quite a while, years and years and years, and it's very dry. But it's on the far side of the quarter section, so it's a half mile away here. So I got my hands on a dump trailer, and I made a sketchy little road down an old cut line, and I had to go around a couple of holes and that, so I could take and drag that trailer with the truck. And I get over there, and I got 5 loads out of there.
Yeah.
5 loads. And the dump trailer, I mean, it's probably hauling 7 yards, something like that. And or at least that by the time I'm done loading it up, because I don't have to get out on the road with it. I heaped her. I mean, I was everything I could. And I got it back, and it was about the time that I was getting the 5th load that the road went to heck, and I drug the axles right through one of the holes, and I was like, wow, that's it for that. So then I had another down my gun range here at the 400-yard gong. There's another low spot, and it's plumb full of old peat moss and loam and that. And as deeper you get, it no longer even looks like peat moss. It's very dark, and it's very
rich.
Very rich. It grows really, really good crop, but it's wet because it's this time of the year.
As we discussed.
So I taken back in, and now I've already hauled 5 loads, and it's like I'm so thrilled because I am just heaping them up, right? I take and back it in, and I heap it up with the skid steer, and I go to move it, and it won't move. And it's dark. I shouldn't have been doing this one. It was at the end of the day, and it was like I wanted to get one more in. And I go out there, and I take a look, and I walk around, and it's like, ooh. There's so much weight that the axles on the trailer have gone down through the sod. The tires have gone through the sod, and I'm sitting on the axles. It's like, that ain't ever going to move. So I hook onto the front of the truck with the skid steer, and I have the truck in neutral and all that stuff, and I drag it, and I drag it for 100 yards down, and I still can't get it to break loose and get moving. If I can just get it rolling, I know I'd be okay, right? I had no idea how much weight I had on it. Finally, I get Sandi and say, look, you just pull me on. Steer here, just help out, and once you can get rolling, stop just at this one break, because there was really good clay there, and I knew that it would be okay. So she gets stopped there, and we get unhooked and get skid steer out of the way, and I head out, and I make it into the garden spot, and I back in to dump her, and she won't dump.
Maybe a little too much weight on that.
Way too much weight. She was overloaded. I put a second battery on it and still couldn't, so I had to dig some of it out with the skid steer. After that, I started doing a lot smaller loads coming out of it.
Well, you were closer. You were only 400 yards down that. Well, not even 300.
Yeah.
I guess from the garden spot, so not so bad.
We ended up putting a lot of dirt in there, which is good. Should be a great year next year.
But then when you were out there, was it the far spot where the old bear used to den?
Yeah. I don't have them here. I should have. They're in the peat moss. this little bear, has for years, as long as we've been here, a dozen years now. She's always denned down. She's just dug a hole down into the peat moss, and that's where she dens every winter. And so I walked over to take a look at it, and right beside the hole is hair and bones and all that, and it's a bear. I picked up the toenails, and I actually have them upstairs on the island. And I realized it's that old bear, and her teeth are there, and they're like really wore out. Yeah, she was quite the old bear. I mean,
she never bothered. I mean, we saw her once out by the pond here, but she never.
I saw her several times. So
But she never bothered anything here except for.
She got into my fish oil a couple of times. I'd have fish rotting down for fish oil, and she got in. There was a couple of years in a row she got into it. Yeah. And I'd never even actually known, because I tend to forget about that stuff. And then it's when one of the dogs comes back smelling like what he's just rolled in. It's like, oh, damn.
Because they smell so pretty when they do that.
But every time I saw her, she had triplets. And one time she had 4. Yeah. Yeah, there's one year that she had 4. And she wasn't a very big bear. No. Just a little old bear. Yeah. But she's probably pretty old. Looking down in that hole now in that peat moss, I can see that it's the water level is really, really high, right? Yeah. There's probably only a foot of clearance under there. So maybe what happens sometimes you get a Chinook in January, February, and water floods into those places because they're down in low spots. They're underneath tree roots, that kind of stuff, and water floods in. They get wet and they get pushed out of their den in the middle of winter. And, she's old and probably couldn't survive it because she's literally laying right beside
the hole.
Yeah.
Well, nature and the cycle of life and all of that kind of stuff. But it's silly to be sad about a little old black bear, but.
And how many bears have we shot in our lifetime?
Yeah. I just. But she was like part of the communion here. We have lots of deer and moose, and occasionally an elk comes through. And
right now the moose season, moose rut's just starting to fire up, and we walk around the quarter. We take the mutts out for a walk every night, and the moose are starting to rut. So they're creating scrapes or paws and getting all pretty fired up for the girls, right?
Yep, exactly. No, we've had a busy, since the end of June. So we've been home for 3 months, and it feels like we were gone for 6.
Well, we were supposed to have a bunch of different podcasts. I had them all lined up, but everybody had a year where it happened, and hopefully we can get back on a schedule now. And I guess maybe I'll have to start doing some of them remotely. I don't like to. I like to have people there in person.
Well, it's a lot more fun to bounce off of an individual in front of you. But and now a lot of our friends that we would want here are also busy hunting or getting ready for trapping season or.
Which reminds me, I got to get a hold of Ryan Demchinsky. Are we going skunk trapping?
Oh.
And you need to send me some essence.
3 years ago, we went with Ryan and his daughters skunk trapping around where he is in southern Saskatchewan, and it was a week before our youngest son got married. And I was afraid that it was going to go wrong. It didn't, but I was afraid it was going to.
Well, I need to make lure. I need to make my Marten Lures.
Yeah.
Well, I always like to. One of the things that I always put in my Marten Lure is a jam. Usually a raspberry jam, but we had our South African friend was here, and they love apricot. Apricot everything, apricot jam especially. Yeah. So there's a half a jar of apricot jam in there. I think I'm going to feed that to the Marten this year.
Well, and I made there's. I'm not going to pronounce it right. I'll totally butcher it, but I call it malva pudding, and that's not how you say it in Afrikaans. However, it has some apricot jam in it, so I made that for Ryan a couple of times. And
yes, he was homesick.
Yeah,
he was supposed to be your consultant on how to do it right, and he says, I don't know. He says, I just eat it after Mom's done.
Well, one of the great things that we got when we were over there was some. Milk pudding?
Yes.
Milk tart.
Yeah.
And so his mother was ever so kind as to send the recipe. And it was a bit tricky because it went from metric to imperial and back again and whatever. But I mean, whatever. In Canada, we're very ambidextrous with that sort of thing.
Bilingual.
And Ryan looked at the recipe and he goes, "Oh, isn't that cute?" She translated it from Afrikaans. I said, "Well, thank goodness, because otherwise you wouldn't be having milk tart."
Yeah.
I don't read I don't speak Afrikaans. I don't understand it. Anyway, so then he liked that, but his most favorite dessert ever was malva pudding. So I made that a couple of times.
Yeah. It was fun having him here.
It was. Yeah. He's talking about coming back in December. I'm not sure. I think he's going to look at the forecast and go, I have stuff to do.
Oh, yeah. Well, he did learn what it was like here, though. I mean, the pace of life and that is quite different. And we don't have the access and the ability to hunting and fishing like he does. I mean, he literally hunts and fishes every night of his life.
Yeah.
That's
and so it was quite different here.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I mean, he went out with the squirrel hunting of Weimaraner here, and they had a good time out at the cabin shooting squirrels. And he was very impressed with Eli and his ability to spot squirrels in the trees. So that was good. And we've been home for 3 months. It feels like we've been home for longer, and yet not. There's been a lot that's been going on.
I made a couple trips to Saskatchewan. I had to change all the windows in my daughter's house, and on it goes. I mean, you just...
it's the job of a dad.
Yeah, I know. It's a life sentence.
And be lucky that they weren't building a house this year.
Well, should we wrap this up?
I think we should.
It's been wonderful, and I almost feel like this is like a date. Does this count as a date, by the way?
No.
Come on.
No.
We haven't been together much recently. You've been on doing your thing, and I've been doing my thing. And this could be a date.
So you should look at the calendar, because next Saturday,
oh dear,
there is a big day.
Oh dear.
And it's one of those big days.
Is that number 40?
It is number 40.
Number 40 of listening to you snore.
Oh. Okay. There was a romantic moment that could have happened there, but I don't think it's going to now.
Anyway, we're getting new stuff is up now. Whenever Amazon Prime gets their act together, all of season 5 will be up on Amazon Prime. It's been sitting there for a month and a half, and they still haven't got it figured out. I don't know what's going on there.
And the YouTube stuff is going up every Friday. There's a new one that goes up, and that announcement is out on our Facebook also.
Yes, absolutely. And otherwise, you can always drop in at trappinginc.com, and you can get all the connections from there to Facebook and Instagram and all that stuff.
Yeah. So thanks for coming back.
Yes.
We're glad to be able to do another one and just kind of share what's going on in our lives. And we hope that you'll come back for the next one.
We'll see you down the line.